me find a block.
All right, kids, here we are. Here we go. It's just after high noon, 12:05 to be precise. My name is Matt Murphy, and this is the Matt Murphy Radio Show on Super Talk 99.7 WT. And pleased to have you with us on this Friday edition, May 31, the final day of May 2024. It's episode 582 of our proceedings on Super Talk. It's LFT 90. That's locks for Trump, 90. I continue to grow my hair out until we have a new president-elect, at least. And that looks a little more likely considering the news over the last 24 hours or so. I don't know if you heard or not, but we got a verdict in the Trump trial in New York City. I don't know if you heard or not, but 12 jurors voted guilty. Considering all of the evidence before them, they made the decision to declare Donald Trump guilty of 34 counts of what was misdemeanor mishandling of or misclassifying of tax documents and what became a felony as a result of Alvin Bragg's desperate attempt in order to get Donald Trump and really, by extension, the Department of Justice and Joe Biden himself and the Biden administration. So we're going to break all of that down for you today. But before we do, I have to tell you where we are and where I would like for you to be. I would love for you to come out and see us. I have the pleasure of being out in Winchester, Tennessee today at the beautiful Twin Creeks Marina and Resort. I've never had the opportunity to be here in the past, and being here today is pretty special. Hey guys, how are y'all? A lot of folks coming out, having something to eat at the Drafts and Watercrafts Twin Creeks Marina restaurant, which is a floating restaurant right here on the docks at the marina. It is beautiful out here. I mean, this is, I guess, Tim Ford's Lake. I believe that's correct. Tim Ford's Lake. And you can, if you've never been, just come down. Although most of the people, and I think you'll understand why if you've ever seen it or if you ever do come down and see it. Most of the people who have come by who are from Winchester have asked me not to tell anybody about Tim Ford's Lake or the marina or anything else about this part of the world because they want to keep it to themselves. But we're going to tell everybody about it because that's part of why we're here. We're having a good time at the restaurant. You can come by and see us. They've got live music Thursday through Sunday, trivia and great food. They've got a marina with boat rentals. I just picked up one of the boat rental slips, looking at some of the pricing for the boat rentals. And if you're looking for a fun lake getaway away from Nashville and all of the hustle and bustle of a metropolitan area, this is the great way to do it. You can wake up to the sounds of waves crashing from the lake, et cetera, et cetera. They've got weddings and events. I'll tell you all about it as the show goes on. Obviously, we're going to take many of your telephone calls at 615-737-9986, 615-737-WWTN. You can also get your comments in on the Members Nutrition super text line 615-737-9986. John says, sorry, Matt, but it's Tim Ford's Lake, FYI. That's what I said. Isn't that what I said? I thought that's what I said. Did I leave the did I just say Ford? Thank you, Kirby. That's probably what it was. That's why I was being corrected. I left the S off of Tim Ford. Tim Ford's Lake. Yes, it is one man's lake, and his name is Tim Ford. It's not Matt Murphy's lake. It is Tim's lake. I don't know who Tim is, but I'm going to learn today, and I'm going to teach you all today as well. It's going to be difficult for me to express the level of anger, frustration, and annoyance at our American judicial system as I broadcast from such a beautiful and wonderful facility with so many folks laid back. They're on the lake. It's hard to get upset about the rest of the world. And, frankly, as I sit here, it occurs to me how easy it is to understand how so many have checked out of what has become such a frustrating political system and what has become such a, dare I say, rigged political game when it comes to Donald Trump in the election season of 2024. I can almost understand why one would want to check out, and I am going to spend the next 3 hours of my show in the next 5 months leading up to the November elections expressing to you why it's so important that you get the needed information for yourself Do not depend on mainstream media, but get that needed information for yourself to make the appropriate decisions about the true future of the United States of America. Because as it's been said many times since the verdict came down yesterday, the real verdict is not in a courtroom in New York City. The real verdict does not involve 12 liberals adjudicating and judging Donald Trump for themselves based on a set-up and rigged game within Merchant's courtroom. The real verdict will come on November 5th and beyond. And I think we've seen a verdict of sorts by the American people in the aftermath of the decision yesterday by the jury, inasmuch as Donald Trump has raised, I think it's almost $40 million now in less than 24 hours as a result of this. You have people, you have individuals that you can consider them right of center if you will, but these are no fans of Donald Trump coming out and saying, you know what? I mean, for example, Vice President Mike Pence, or former Vice President Mike Pence, who served with Donald Trump for 4 years, who did not end their relationship very favorably, and who has very dramatically publicly declared that he would not endorse Donald Trump for president of the United States. Even someone along the lines of a Mike Pence, which many Trump supporters consider to be a turncoat, has stepped out and said that this was a miscarriage of justice. It was a travesty of injustice. In the meantime, as we broadcast from the marina, Twin Creeks, you okay over there, CJ? You gonna be all right? You get yourself a fish. So CJ just realized that fish can jump. What? Come over here. Would you just come over here and tell me what happened just then? Were you almost killed by a? So CJ is one of our on-site producers. He's with the promotions department. Kirby's out here. CJ's out here. CJ, how's it going, brother?
I'm good now. After
you doing all right? Yeah. So they have it's like a gumball machine, but it's filled with fish food.
Yeah, absolutely.
And did you get some of the fish food out?
I had a little bit. I had a couple of them in my hands, and I was just tossing them out. And then something, I don't know where it came from. I didn't even see it. All I know is that there was a massive movement of water that nearly hit one of the fish. And look. If you know me, you know that I'm not necessarily a guy who likes to get in the water because I can't really swim. So that was a quick movement that made me react.
So you accomplished your goal. You got a fish to jump at you? You're not a water guy. You don't swim. CJ, come on, man.
I've only been swimming like maybe 5 times in my life, so I've only been in a pool like 5 times in my life. I don't go near water that much. So
you never had occasion to learn? I'm not judging. I'm just asking.
Yeah,
there are plenty of things in my life that I've never done.
Yeah, I never really had an opportunity to learn. And
well, today is as good a day as any, right? I think so. You can jump in with the carp. I think those are probably carp or a similar style of fish. They're pretty big.
There's a few catfish in there.
Yeah. Watch out. Those catfish grow big enough, they'll grab onto you, take you down to the bottom. You got to watch out for them.
Look.
All right, I'm glad you're okay over there.
We're good.
I'm glad you're all right. There's CJ's on site. Kirby's on site. We'd love to see you as well at Twin Creeks Marina. It was just funny. I wish you had a camera on it because I thought CJ was going to hit the roof. His reaction to, when the fish see the food, the fish come. Speaking of reactions and hitting the roof, I imagine that our reactions were fairly similar. I'll describe mine to you. We'll take your immediate reaction. Obviously, we'll talk to Jay St. Clair at 105 today and get his reaction from a legal perspective. Jay's going to describe for us where all of this goes from here. What we can expect from an appellate process, what we can expect from a sentencing process. Will the judge remand Donald Trump into custody? I don't know the answer to that. I mean, common sense would dictate that it doesn't happen, but has there been any common sense displayed in any of the proceedings that have been going on for the past several months? I think not. So I throw everything out of the window in terms of conventional wisdom or what we might expect will happen in the next several weeks and several months, leading to, one, the debate on June 27th. I think that throws this up in the air. I think it gives Joe Biden, who does not really want to debate, right? I think it gives him and his team a little bit of wiggle room as to how they can finagle out of this debate that they found themselves in. Because, they laid down the gauntlet challenging Trump, thinking that he would not take them up on their bluff. Donald Trump immediately did take them up on their bluff, said, absolutely, I'll debate you anywhere, in any format, with any moderators, anytime, you name it, time, place, and manner, and I will do it. And so Joe Biden did. CNN, loaded game, right? I mean, obviously, the deck is now stacked against Donald Trump in this debate setting, but Donald Trump doesn't care. He's perfectly willing to take on 3 against 1, and when you consider that Joe Biden's not really all there, it's really only like 2.5 against 1. That said, this gives Joe Biden a certain level of wiggle room out of that, because Joe could be, and his team could be smarmy about all this and say that they're not going to debate a convicted felon. On that front, the mainstream media gleefully reported this all afternoon, all evening long, and into the morning this morning, that Donald Trump is now a convicted felon. And as much as this trial was a dog and pony show, I suppose that it is true. If you believe in the American system of justice, and call me a Pollyanna, but I still do, then we have to believe that it is not perfect. And sadly, we are seeing the best modern illustration of the imperfections of our judicial system laid bare before us. Sadly, if our institutions that are designed to prevent these types of things from happening, and by those institutions, I mean the mainstream media, the press, I mean our fourth estate, that is to be the, what was formerly known as the newspaper industry, the television industry, the radio industry, if these media outlets that are designed to present the news in at least a somewhat objective manner, if they choose to pick sides and therefore they choose what stories they're going to cover or not cover, depending on who it looks good for and who it looks bad for, then that tilts the system in a way where you can get away with some of this miscarriage of justice. Secondarily, if you have judges, if you have prosecutors, if you have lawyers, and sadly, if you have a jury system that is tilted against a political candidate in this fashion, this is the way that you can exploit the system. Does that mean that our justice system is broken beyond repair? I don't know the answer to that question, and that's as sad of a commentary as I can make for you today about what's going on. I would have told you yesterday and the day before and the week before and months before that our judicial system, while imperfect and while exploitable, is the best thing going on God's green earth, and it will and can overcome the politicalization of the system. Today, I don't know the answer to that, and I think it really remains to be seen whether or not this is looked at as a somewhat fatal blow against the system. That said, I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to get your response. Does this fire you up? Does it depress you? My range of emotions went this way. So politics is the ultimate blood sport. And for those of us who are fans of sport, along with followers of politics, then you can kind of understand the natural analogies that come along with feeling like your team lost in the big game. And yesterday, when I heard, one, I was shocked that we had a verdict as quickly as we did, and I think it's a byproduct of the sad nature of the jury and the sad nature of New York City, and more on that in a moment. I was shocked that we had a verdict as quickly as we did. I had convinced myself that the case was so badly presented by the prosecution. I had convinced myself that even with a tilted jury, even with a jury of 12 that were predispositioned to be against the defendant from the jump before they heard one scintilla of evidence, that with the poor manner in which the prosecution presented their case, with a lack of connective tissue between what are ultimately misdemeanor charges regarding the mislabeling of payments made to Michael Cohen, although he's a lawyer and they were labeled as legal expenses. With a lack of connecting that to a felony, with a lack of connecting these dots, with the lack of credibility of Michael Cohen, their star witness, that even 12 jurors who we suppose are going to be predisposed to be against Donald Trump, I felt strongly that there would be one or two or even more that would recognize the lack of legal precedent in this case, the lack of connective tissue in this case, the lack of ability to connect the 34 documents charges with the so-called felony. And I'm going to go over all of these things because I think it is important. You know, one of the things that I recognized yesterday after the immediate shock of the timing of all of this, because I was fairly convinced, and I said it yesterday on the show, that this would move into next week. I thought we would get to Monday or Tuesday of next week before we saw a verdict, and we did not even get to Friday deliberation process. So after I got over that, I had a conversation with someone who has not been a friend of mine, who's not been following as closely the details of the case. And I was telling Dan Mandis this yesterday afternoon and early this morning. I came to realize how difficult it is to help people understand what a railroad job this is if they've not been keeping up. In other words, if someone landed from another planet, if you had a Martian come down to planet Earth and land and say, tell me all about this Trump trial, where would you start? Well, you have to start like 8 or 9 or 10 years ago, and you have to catch everyone up. You have to fill them in with the danger that Donald Trump is to the establishment, to the deep state, to the bureaucratic state. You have to catch them up with some of his business dealings in New York City. You have to catch them up with a lot of things before you even get to the nature of the charges against him. And then you have to go through the legal process and get very, very in the weeds with regard to why this doesn't pass muster and why just about every single legal scholar or expert that I've talked to has said consistently that there is 0.0 chance that any of this stands up on appeal. But that wasn't the point, was it? Because we have married politics and our justice system in such a way that we have created a perverted Frankenstein's monster as a result of that consummation. We'll continue talking about it. We'll take your telephone calls as well. We'll fire them up at 615-737-9986. In the meantime, it is difficult to get too worked up about it as I look across the marina and see the beauty that is this lake. It's Tim Ford's lake at lovely Twin Creeks Marina, and I'd love to see you come on out and grab a bite at Drafts and Watercrafts and say hello to us. We'll be here until 3 o'clock, 23 after the hour. It's The Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Man, I am learning so much about Winchester, Tennessee, and we're just getting warmed up. It's 1226, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Let me tell you, if we could pick this place up and move it about 20 miles closer to Nashville, I might move down here. I'll tell you what. No, and I'm getting dirty look. Now I'm getting dirty looks from the Winchester folks. They're like, what are you talking about? Get out of here. Don't tell anybody that we're down here. Don't tell anybody that it's Tim Ford's Lake. Is that? Tim's Ford Lake. That's why I was being corrected. Well, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
It used to be a crossing on the Oak River.
It used to be a fjord.
Tim's Fjord. Yeah.
And we Tennesseed that to Tim's. Okay, that makes a little more sense. I am saying it wrong. Yes. So all of you that have been correcting me on the super text line, I do deeply apologize. It's Tim's. You can understand my confusion. I thought that Tim Ford owned the lake, so it was Tim Ford's Lake. No, it was Tim's Ford Lake. Right? I figured that Tim came down and laid claim to it. This is my lake. Y'all need to get off it. No, it's Tim's Ford Lake. And 3887. You don't have to curse at me. I get it. I've got it now. Who is Tim Ford? I don't know. It's not his lake, though, apparently. That's what everybody's telling me. So I'll get it before we're done at 3 o'clock, I promise you. It's Tim's Ford Lake. I do know that it is Twin Creeks Marina. It's drafts and watercrafts at Twin Creeks Marina, and we would love for you to come and see it. My apology. And I'm just picking up the super text line, and I have been wearing I've been wearing all of you guys out. So for all of you that Steve says it's like Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. It's Tim's Ford Lake. So, but Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, I think the woman who developed Ruth's Chris Steakhouse was Ruth, and she named it after her son, who was Chris, right? So I'm going to get the etymology of all of this, and I'm going to figure all of it out at some point, and I will. I'll share it with you when I do. If any of you know, give me a call at 615-737-9986. It's Tim's Ford Lake for the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's too many to count. There are so many of you that are correcting me that my deepest apologies. I don't think you heard anything else that I said because all of you were correcting me on the rest of that stuff. So lefty D.A. Bragg and the leftist judge in the case and all of the lefties across the United States of America that are celebrating today, they got what they wanted. And as Rich Lowry said in the New York Post this morning, and I read the article so you don't have to, rigged is a favorite word of Donald Trump's, and sometimes it describes what he's trying to describe, and sometimes he's probably using the term a little loosely. In this case, it very much describes exactly what's been going on. It describes how institutions and processes have been distorted by a progressive elite to tilt the playing field against the regular folks. If you understand the populism of Donald Trump, and I think I do. If you understand that populism, it is only going to grow. It's only going to get stronger. However, I'm naturally a pessimist about these things, folks. And I understand that as informed as you are, as you understand this case, it is incumbent not just upon me, but I'm going to challenge all of you that it is important for you to make sure that all of your family members, all of your friendship group, and I know that this is uncomfortable to say, but it is a fact. It is incumbent upon you to share what you understand about this case to everyone that you know, because we have to filter all of this down to the, dare I say, stupid people. That's right. I said it and I meant it. There are a lot of people who vote in the United States of America today that are just dumb, that choose to be ignorant of what's going on in this country, that choose to be ignorant of the facts, and that choose to be dumb to the situation surrounding this case and many other things involved in politics. With that in mind, we have to take it upon ourselves to make sure that in the 5 months between now and then, that we don't have anyone going to the polls and voting against Donald Trump for a lack of information about what happened yesterday and what the political elites in Washington, D.C. are trying to do with this country. And they're not just sending a message to Donald Trump. They're not after him as much as they're after all of us, each one of us. I think it's been very well said that all of this is not about coming after Donald Trump. It's about coming after us, and he just happens to be in the way. It's 12:31. We're anticipating a Friday edition coming up at 1:05 as well. We'll have a Friday Mac Attack edition, which I don't know if anyone heard the Chris Hand show today, but there's some very positive news that came out of the Chris Hand show that's very negative for all of us. One media market's gain is another's loss. And McMurray has made the announcement that he is moving on to, I wouldn't say greener pastures, but I know. I mean, I think we could, Bell, I think if you and I wanted to, we could affect the outcome of this Morey move to Kansas City. We might talk about that a little bit later on.
I know we could.
I mean, I feel like if we got in contact with the people in charge over there, that we could dramatically impact whether or not he goes to Kansas City after all. But we'll talk about that a little later on during Friday Mac Attack. And Senator Marsha Blackburn is going to swing by at around 2:05 for about 10 minutes or so, and then we'll have Friday Mac Attack right after that. But she has a response to some of the nonsense that has been happening over the last 24 hours involving Donald Trump and Trump trial and the sham that came out of that. It is 12:32, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Back in a moment. Super Talk 99.7 WTN 1237. Matt Murphy and you. It is the Matt Murphy Radio Show, episode 582. Bell K. I failed to do this on this May 31st, this Friday, because I'm out and about at Tim's Ford Lake. It is my understanding that there have been people that have been saying that wrong, and I apologize. I can't control what others do, but anybody else that's been saying it wrong, allow me to correct you. It's Tim's Ford Lake at Twin Creeks Marina, and just charge me $1 every time I say Twin Peaks. I don't know why I'm going to say Twin Peaks, but I'm just going to. It's Twin Peaks Marina, and we're right outside of Drafts and Watercrafts, the beautiful floating restaurant facility here. And I just got a chance to meet Tom and Cassandra. They came out and said hello to me. Hello to them. They're from over in the Manchester, Tullahoma area, and they stopped by to say hello to us. They're going to have a little lunch, and you're invited to do the same. You can also call us if you can't get out here, 615-737-9986, 615-737-WWTN. And I hesitate to do this, Bell, but I've got to. Did you send me my link?
Yes,
because okay, I just need
check
to make
your spam
sure.
folder.
That's what I was looking for. I just need to check on that front. I'll find it. But if you want to communicate with the show right now before I find that, then the best bet is to dial up 615-737-9986. All right, so let's continue along these lines of kind of dissecting and going through the emotional impact of the verdict yesterday. I had, because of the close nature that, our job requires that we follow the case probably a little more closely than I would have wanted to, because when you get into the muck and the mire of some of the way that the judge tilted the scale, the judge put his thumb on the scale, the manner in which the defense was treated differently than the prosecution. I mean, the defense was literally, and Donald Trump made a comment on this as he spoke to the assembled media and to the country earlier today, that the defense was literally unable to call defense witnesses that would have exonerated Trump with regard to the federal elections portion of this case. But to describe the case to someone that hasn't been paying attention is an exercise almost in futility, because it's difficult to catch them up. You have to understand that Donald Trump was accused of mislabeling some payments that he called legal expenses that ultimately went to Michael Cohen, that then went to Stormy Daniels. That was due to a non-disclosure agreement, which is a legal document, so one would properly classify that as legal expenses. But the district attorney in the state of New York decided that these were misclassified, and that is against state law. It's a misdemeanor. It's a misdemeanor tax filing offense. It is a paperwork offense that is solvable by paying a fine. But that wasn't good enough for the DA in this case. And it's not good enough for the prosecution, and it's not good enough for the judge, and it's not good enough for the Democrats, and it's not good enough for the Biden administration, because they cannot understand that all of this is about beating Donald Trump and beating conservatives/libertarians in the arena of ideas. That's what it's all about. And they cannot compete in the arena of ideas. They cannot compete when we talk about issues. They cannot compete when you discuss the southern border. They can't compete when you talk about the economy. They can't compete when you talk about inflation. They can't compete when you talk about lack of foreign entanglements and Joe Biden's decision to get us into further foreign entanglements. They can't compete when you talk about energy. They can't compete when you talk about the culture. They can't compete when you talk about societal issues or community-based issues. They can't compete. They can't compete when you talk about taxation. And because they cannot compete in the arena of ideas, they have to engage in warfare in a different way. And it's a purely political way in which they have done so. They tried to get Donald Trump, to take it back even a further step, because I think this is important. The mainstream media and the political left, they treated Trump as a joke in 2015 and 2016. And even to the point of election night, they thought that it was a foregone conclusion that the American people would go to the polls and they would vote for Hillary Clinton. Because, after all, they're not going to elect this clown who was on television, who's a glorified carnival barker, their opinion, not mine, who's a real estate developer in New York. Nobody's going to elect this guy that's never held. And they did. The American people did, because Donald Trump came to represent something greater than himself. Donald Trump represented our disgust with the weight of Washington, D.C. on the rest of the United States of America. Donald Trump came to represent our disgust with the corrupt nature of the deep state within the system, and we wanted to break that up. Well, here's what I've been saying for 5 or 6 years, and here's what I would say now. Did you think the deep state wasn't going to fight back? I mean, is this not just a natural byproduct of the deep state fighting back? Of course they were going to fight back. They started even before he had gotten the final words of the oath of office out of his mouth. Literally before. I mean, and I mean that. Literally before. As Barack Obama and the heads of the intelligence community, the FBI and the CIA and the NSA,
what do you know about the intelligence?
They got together.
What do you know about the intel community?
What do I know about the intelligence community? Well, sit down and we'll talk about it.
I'm asking you questions.
Well, I'm on the radio right now, but I can have a private conversation with you right now.
What I know on the radio.
Oh, well, I'm on the radio right now. But
Well, then don't speak about the intel community if you don't know.
well, no, I know plenty about it. I'm happy to talk to you about it. Sure. FBI, NS. I mean, no, we can talk. I don't know why you're walking away.
I can't talk about it. You shouldn't be talking about things you don't know about.
Okay, so you can't talk to me about it, but I shouldn't be talking about it because you said. Okay, that's fine. I've never claimed to be an expert, sir. I just talk on the radio.
Don't speak from the intel community.
And your name is?
Bob.
I mean, you're telling me not to say so. I'm an American. I enjoy the First Amendment.
But I'm saying don't speak for the intel.
I can't talk to you while I'm trying to mass communicate, but I appreciate you.
Hey, Bob, you work the base?
Bob's very angry at me because I had the audacity to speak on certain things that I wasn't supposed to speak about. It's 1244 Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. 615-737-9986. Now, back to what I was saying. The intelligence communities, which Bob says I'm not supposed to speak about, the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, they came together in the Obama administration, and they spoke about what they considered to be certain aspects of the transition that they found to be untoward or even illegal. And they made the decision to utilize FSA wiretaps in order to spy on Donald Trump in Trump Tower. They did so for the purposes of gathering information and potentially to connect Donald Trump with Russian collusion, as they said. This led to the Robert Mueller investigation. It led to the necessity for the Attorney General of the United States, Jeff Sessions, to recuse himself. As a result of said investigation, there was a lot of debate as to whether or not he had to do that. It also led to 2.5 years of the country being distracted by the failures of the intelligence community, and secondarily being distracted by the special prosecution of Donald Trump in the form of the special counsel that was appointed in the form of Robert Mueller. All of that to say, it started then, during his presidency, the deep state effort to push back against the concept of the Trump presidency, and it continues to this day. And it's pretty obvious that it's not going to end until, well, it's not going to end one way or the other, but it's not going to end until Donald Trump is no longer a factor in the election. And if they could compete with Donald Trump in the arena of ideas, they most certainly would. 615-737-9986. Yeah, Trevor, you're right. I don't know. Bob was walking by, and just to explain what just happened, we're out on the arena dock, and we're outside of the restaurant, and the restaurant's on down the way in the sunshine, and we're kind of around the corner. And so I was making mention of the intelligence community as our good friend Bob, and I don't think that's his real name, was walking by and said, "What do you know about the intelligence community?" And I said, "Well, FBI," and say, "Well, don't talk about what you don't want to know about." And so I invited him to be on the show with me, and then he refused to be on the show with me because he said that he could not say what he knew about the intelligence community. I don't want to mischaracterize what Bob said, because I know many of you couldn't hear him, but a lot of people assembled around could. That I'm not to speak about the intelligence community, but he knows about the intelligence community, and when I asked him to speak about the intelligence community, he said no, because he couldn't. It reminded me of, I used to have these debates. My good friend Wayne Gregory and I would go to his parents' house, And Mr. Gregory was a part of military intelligence. He was within the intelligence community in the United States military and the United States Army. And we would have these debates with Mr. Gregory, honing our debate skills. And we would feel like that we would corner Mr. Gregory in a particular way where he couldn't get out of it. And then Mr. Gregory would say, well, let me tell you something, kids. I know things within the United States military intelligence that I can't tell you that prove my point. But I'm right and you're wrong. Well, how are you right? Well, I know things that I can't tell you. That's what Bob just did to me. So I wish Bob would have come on the radio with me, but alas, I don't think he's interested in that. 615 and I don't think that the membersnutrition.com super text line, I don't think you guys are very big fans of Bob. 3005 says Bob's from Alabama. Well, I don't know about that. Brian says that was a tough guy. I hope the FBI or the CIA go out after him to see how awesome he is. Bob can go bleep himself. He don't own that lake. Yeah, that's right. It's Tim's Ford Lake. It's not Bob's Ford Lake. Bob. Bob left. I don't know. So I wish he was still here. I wish I could have gotten him to talk to me. He seemed very angry. Didn't Bob seem unnaturally angry at me for? He was angry at me for having the audacity as a United States American citizen to allow the words FBI or CIA to come out of my lips, and said, well, don't talk about things that you don't know anything about. I can talk about anything I want to, pal. I mean, this is a free country as long as Joe Biden doesn't destroy it. So, we'll talk about what we like. Thank you very much. And Bob is invited to talk about it as well, but Bob didn't want to. So there you go. It's 1249 Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We'll continue the conversation whether we know what we're talking about or not in just a moment on Super Talk. Stand by.
Bob was still talking about it up there.
Hey, folks, it's Matt Murphy. Not just out and about today at Tim's Ford Lake in Winchester, Tennessee, but tomorrow we'll be at the Glock store, a little closer to town, if you will. If you're from or around the Nashville area, we would love to see you. It's Airlane Drive, just off of Elm Hill Park. It starts at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. I'll be there. Dan Mandis will be there. And we'll be there, and we would love to see you at the big 4th annual open house event at the Glock store. We talked to Lenny McGill yesterday. For 4 years now, he's been in Nashville. He chose Nashville, coming from California. He was getting out of he's almost a refugee out of California, and he decided to pick a state that believed in the Second Amendment and was an open and free market like the state of Tennessee, and he selected Nashville, and what a joy it's been to see the Glock store grow. As a result, we've been so proud to be a part of that growth over the last several years, and we'd love to see you tomorrow. There will be giveaways galore. There's going to be food trucks out there. There'll be some free ice cream out there, some free sodas and whatnot. So you'll have some fun, some fellowship, some food, and we'll also have plenty of short and long guns available for you at the Glock store, plus accessories, plus clothing items, plus you get to tour the Shoot 270 rooms. It's a big deal, and the giveaways, the raffles are almost $10,000 or a little over $10,000 being given away at the Glock store tomorrow. So come by and see us. It's tomorrow. The big day is tomorrow morning starting at 10 a.m., and I would invite you to get there a little bit earlier than that to get ready for the open house event starting at 10 a.m. at the Glock store. More information at glockstore.com.
Dom's like, oh, okay. But it was already.
You've got to be kidding. Oh my God. That is.
Well, who's picking his score today?
Just about 3 minutes until 1 o'clock. It's a beautiful afternoon in Winchester, Tennessee. Hope it's gorgeous where you are. It's Friday. We're at Twin Creeks Marina on Bob's Ford Lake, which I finally got right. Not Bob's Ford. I'm just kidding. Tim's Ford. A lot of reaction to our good buddy Bob, who I regret to tell you has left. Several of you want to know if I convinced Bob to come on the radio with us. Bob was not interested in doing that. If you missed it, I was making a comment about our intelligence community when a nice gentleman walked by us, and he turned around and told me to stop talking about the intelligence community. And I said, well, do you know what you're talking about? What do you know about it? And I said, well, I'm on the radio now. He didn't seem to care about any of that and also did not want to go on the radio with us. But I would love to have the man in my life, but I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. To that, one of our listeners, I lost it here, from Winchester. Hey, guys, daily listener from Winchester. I'm a hospice nurse on the road seeing patients. I hate I'm missing your show today. I apologize for the rudeness of Bob. He doesn't represent the majority of our town. Love you all. Thank you for keeping me informed. No. I mean, there's always look, if you look around and you don't know who the butthole is, it's probably you. So I think we found it, and his name is Bob. And I hope you're listening, Bob. Coming up, Jay St. Clair will fill us in on his thoughts from a legal perspective about where we go from here. I've kind of waited on my analysis because I want to hear Jay's first. I lean on him when it comes to some of these legal matters because I understand that the judge has a sentencing to do in this case. I understand that that's to come on July 11th. Does the judge have the ability to put Donald Trump in jail if he so desired to do so? Does he have the ability to sentence him and to cart him off and to remand him into custody at the time of sentencing? Would he do that? I don't know that he would do that. Could he do that? That's a good question for Jay St. Clair. And where we go from here from an appellate standpoint. The conventional wisdom is that whatever appeals happen, they're not going to happen prior to the election in November. And I asked Jay this question earlier today via text as we were communicating about his appearance, and that would be why. Why would we have to wait in order to expedite an appeal? Do the American people not deserve to hear as much as they possibly can hear about how this case is going to carry out going forward? Now, I don't pretend that several of these levels of state court will give him any relief, but once you get to a certain level, I think relief is most certainly forthcoming because the entirety of the prosecution was against the basic rule of law even in the state of New York. That's hour number one. We've got two more to go from Twin Creeks Marina on Tim's Ford Lake. It's the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Stand by.
From ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. For the first time, President Biden commenting on the jury's guilty verdict in the hush money trial of Donald Trump, convicting him of falsifying documents related to campaign finance law ahead of the 2016 election. President Biden saying no one is above the law and called Trump's claims that the trial was rigged and backed by the Biden administration false.
It's reckless. It's dangerous. It's irresponsible for anyone to say this was rigged just because they don't like the verdict.
The president says Trump has a right to appeal the verdict. Earlier, Trump says he will.
We're going to be appealing this scam.
The verdict makes Trump the first presidential candidate to campaign for re-election with a felony conviction. ABC News political director Rick Klein has more on the possible impact to the presidential race.
We are on uncharted territory. There is really no precedent for this. And we've talked to some voters, undecided voters, who say they're more firmly in Biden's camp, even some who say this is pushing them toward Trump. But we're not going to know. And the bottom line is, in an election this close, everything can matter. This clearly could be a huge development.
President Biden, in his remarks, outline a plan to end the hostage crisis and war between Hamas and Israel. The president says Israel has presented a new proposal and Hamas wants a ceasefire. That includes phases for hostage releases and bolstering aid into Gaza.
It's time to begin this new stage. For the hostages to come home, for Israel to be secure, for the suffering to stop. It's time for this war to end.
The push comes nearly 8 months after Hamas carried out the October 7th attacks and months of war, and as Israel steps up its attacks in Rafah, Gaza's southernmost city. Another round of severe storms hammering Texas, packed with heavy rain, and residents still trying to recover from earlier storms this week. Nearly 200,000 customers still without power. You're listening to ABC News.
Echoing, beating back. That's why you do promote. Get feedback on that.
Now we're talking. We're getting lively out here at Tim's Ford Lake Twin Creeks Marina, just outside of the Drafts and Watercrafts Bar and Grill. and we would love to see you. A lot of folks coming out and enjoying some time on the lake, and we would like to see you out and about. We'll be here until 3 o'clock. It's the Matt Murphy Radio Show, Super Talk 99.7, WTN. Friday edition, obviously a lot of activity going on out here, but a lot to get to in the form of news activity. And the big news from yesterday, of course, the verdict in the trial against Donald Trump in New York City. 34 counts against, and the mainstream media enjoyed it. And you've probably heard some of the montages, the amount of times that the mainstream media chose to say convicted felon. Here's my recommendation. We need to lean into that. And those that are supportive of Donald Trump need to lean into calling Donald Trump a convicted felon, because we need to remind those that are against Donald Trump for whatever reason. And look, it's America. Despite what Bob wants you to believe, we have every ability to speak on these matters as American citizens as we so desire. And so whatever your thoughts are, whatever your feelings are about what happened to Donald Trump yesterday, you're entitled to your opinion. And I would suggest that regardless of what the mainstream media wants to do with this term convicted felon, you need to lean into that and call him a convicted felon and remind the rest of the country that might be against us, and I think it's a minority of people in this country, that we don't care. You can do whatever you want. He represents something greater than the man that you're attempting to destroy, and we're going to continue our support so long as we are able. 615-737-9986 if you'd like to be a part of the show. Hello, how are y'all? 615-737-WWTN. We would love to hear from you. At 107, it is our pleasure to introduce you officially to your Friday.
On the radio. He said, I'm listening to him, and y'all are sitting there.
Thank you. I was just talking to a lovely lady who said her husband loves my show. That's very sweet. Is that your son? Yes. He's not a Chiefs fan, is he? I'll tell McMorey that you said hello. Well, my news guy loves the Chiefs, loves Patrick Mahomes. All right, we're out of the marina, as you can hear, and Jay St. Clair is with us, as you can obviously hear, based on the music in the background. It is officially Friday, our opportunity to talk to my legal correspondent, good Tennessee man, life consultant, and gambling buddy, Jay St. Clair, on the line with us. Hello, Mr. St. Clair. How are you?
Hey, buddy. If I were any better, Matt, I would be Mrs. Beasley, your little dog who has no idea what happened in that courthouse in New York City yesterday.
You know, Mrs. Beasley, let me explain, Jay. Mrs. Beasley's version of injustice is going outside to the bathroom and not getting a treat when she comes back inside. So, and I'm not even kidding. She has come to expect that there are snacks available after she goes potty outside. And every so often, as a way to try to remind Mrs. Beasley and Munson that they don't always get snacks, we don't give them snacks. And the look on her face, I saw it yesterday afternoon when Donald Trump walked out of the courtroom. I said, that's the way Mrs. Beasley looks when she doesn't get a treat after going to the bathroom.
That's funny. That's funny.
Well, Jay, you have, these many, many weeks that we've been discussing this, and I feel like, we kind of just put the needle back on the record and go over the same tune, but it does bear repeating considering the results of the trial yesterday. You have said for a long time that this is not really in your wheelhouse, because your area of expertise is the law, and this is more your words about politics than it is about the law. And I would assume, I don't want to assume too much, but I believe that I know you well enough to think that yesterday's verdict kind of proves that theory out.
Well, I've been saying for quite some time, Matt, that this was the case that I thought was the least likely case for Trump to win outright. I always thought this was the most dangerous case for him, and it's because of the venue. The jury Benari, the people that are going to be on the jury. And what I didn't know is just how one-sided the judge was going to be.
Right.
And so you put those two together, and this case was decided before the first day of court.
I've held off this topic of conversation intentionally until we had you on because, you're my friend for a long time, and you know me. I fly probably a little hotter than I should sometimes, and I'm cool on certain things when I maybe should be a little bit hotter. But yet the first feeling that I had when I found out this verdict, but based on the timing, the fact that it was, 13 hours, 12 hours into the deliberation process,
right.
I was sad. Because even with the bias of the jury, I thought that there would be one or two or three individuals that saw through the bias, that saw through all of the clutter and the clatter, and would see to the law and how important it is to uphold those basic premises of our judicial system. And I was just sad that there was not a person that was willing to stand up and offer that argument in court. Or in deliberation.
I think, absolutely explained my same emotional response, man. Maybe we've been around each other too long. But the sadness is exactly the right word. I was not surprised, but I was disappointed. The word that I had planned to use to you of what my feeling was. But I think sad is a better word. Sad that you're right. Not at least not one person out of 12 said this is wrong. I mean, what's going on here? The movie 12 Angry Men.
I thought of that. I thought of that too. Yep. Yeah.
Or To Kill a Mockingbird.
Mm-hmm.
Or that's fiction. Let's just take real life. This is kind of the flip side of the O.J. Simpson coin. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that jury was not going to convict O.J. Simpson regardless of what the evidence was. They just weren't going to do it. And it's jury nullification. And here's the exact opposite. This jury was going to convict Trump no matter what the evidence was. And that's just sad. And I think what adds to the sadness is, look, if it were just, a poor black guy in rural Alabama in 1930, I mean, that's awful, but then it's a different kind of awful when it's someone running for president of the United States.
Right.
Then it's not just a social injustice. It really, frankly, sort of tears at the fabric of our country, man. Well, I guess social injustices do also, but I'm sad. I'm embarrassed for our judicial system. It just is a real stain on that. But we'll see what the outcome is. I mean, Trump said it exactly right. The real verdict comes on November 5th. Because that's what this is all about. It's all about the election.
Well, and you've said for a long time, and you've said it so well, that, none of this would be happening were November 5th not happening, right? I mean, that
if he hadn't run for president, none of these cases would have been filed. No question about it.
So there are several people already reaching out, 615-737-9986. If you have a question about the legal matters surrounding the Trump case or a question about any legal matter, that's what Jay is here for on these Fridays, 615-737-9986. You can dial them up on the membersnutrition.com super text line. If you want to call in, you are welcome to do that, and we'll try to get that together as well. TB wants to know, ask Jay, if Trump is sentenced in July, what he thinks will be the outcome of that sentencing. In other words, I've asked the question, Jay, and I don't know if we have to dive into New York state law deeply to figure this out or not, but would the judge have the ability? I don't know that. I mean, I perished the thought that he would actually do this, but would the judge in that case, if he sentences him to jail, would he have the ability to remand him into custody at the time of sentencing?
Well, he could, but then he'll post a bond. I think there is close to a 0% chance that Trump will be incarcerated prior to the November election. But with this caveat, and seeing this is where this gets over into your area, man, unless he wants it.
Mm-hmm.
And he might want it. Politics is not my expertise. That's yours. But he might want it. But if he doesn't, and that's my prediction, that he'll just post a bond for appeal. And if that's denied, he'll immediately appeal that. And in my judgment, the appellate courts up there will say, no, you got to let him out on bond.
So just functionally, I want to go over this. I think I have a rudimentary understanding of it because I've been friends with you for 20 years. But this was in state court. Right. So the appeals would, I mean, there are a couple of levels of state court, the appellate process at this stage. So Trump and his team will obviously immediately appeal this to a higher court.
Right. Yes, sir.
And how, I mean, I asked you this question this morning, and you seem pretty confident. I think you're right, that none of the appeals will be heard prior to the election. And I'm curious if Donald Trump, as a defendant, not as a presidential candidate, but as a defendant, says, no, I demand a speedy trial. Time is of the essence here. And maybe you do include some factor involved in the election. I don't know how you would do that, Jay. But, I mean, would Trump, the defendant, have the ability to say, no, I'm guaranteed the right of a speedy trial by the Constitution of the United States of America, and I want that right now?
Well, he's had his trial, so that concept doesn't really apply on appeals. The idea is you can't arrest somebody and hold them in jail for 10 years and not try him.
Mm-hmm.
So he's had his trial, so it's really not a speedy trial.
So the Constitution doesn't say anything about a speedy appeal? Come on, Jay, help me out.
Man, I'm just reporting the law. I can't change it.
I knew. Hey, I told myself. I said earlier today, in anticipation of our conversation, somebody at work said, "I can't wait to hear Jay." I was like, "Yeah, today's one of these days that Jay's going to tell me stuff that makes me want to yell at him."
Yep. A lot of fond memories, and that's what I say. Hey, Matt, I don't make the law. I'm just reporting it. So no, there's no constitutional principle at issue here, Matt. It's just kind of a lay justice, right, holding those scales.
Mm-hmm.
And he could request that his appeal be expedited. He could certainly make that request, but he's not guaranteed that it'll be granted. And frankly, I don't think it would be here. And so, no, I don't think that I don't think the appellate court will decide this case prior to the November election.
So, in your mind, would they look at the totality of if Trump's folks filed an appeal? I mean, I understand that the justice system works so slow. I was involved in it. I don't know if you've ever been involved in these types of cases, Jay, where the system works so slow and it's years and years and years of filing this brief and that brief. I mean, that's how you make a living. That's how you bought your house, Jay.
You know what? You know the number one reason that's true, man?
Why is that?
Lawyers work by the hour.
And so years of filing this brief and that brief and arguing over this word and that word. So if Trump files an appeal, do you believe that the appellate court, I mean, how does that work? Like the court receives that appeal? How does that work?
Yeah, no, that's right. He has the absolute right to appeal, and they'll file a notice of appeal promptly, just with a single piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
They'll set a briefing schedule, and a few months down the road, they'll file legal briefs. It'll all be argued on paper. Well, I guess they also oral argument, but they don't retry the case.
Uh-huh.
Right? The case has been tried. The evidentiary record is sealed. I mean, it's you can't put any more evidence in at this point. So it's all just done with lawyers.
Would the judges at the appellate court level, in your opinion, take into consideration that they're dealing with a case that has to do with the leading presidential candidate for the 2024 election?
Well, I think the only time they should take that into consideration, frankly, is if a request is made to speed up the appeal. We want this appeal to be resolved as quickly as possible, and I'm just going to say before November 5th. This is wrong. The voters should be entitled to decide whether this sticks or not. I would make that argument. And if the judges that are considering that motion absolutely should take that into consideration. That's the grounds for the motion.
Mm-hmm.
And now how they would decide that, I don't know. I will say this, that the main factors will be political, right? Because, I mean, the motion's based on politics.
Mm-hmm.
They
I want to
railroaded me. The only reason I got railroaded is because I'm running for president. And the entire country deserves to know before that election whether this was really a valid conviction or not.
And
that's absolutely what I would argue.
And it goes to the heart, and it's where the legal process and the political process meet, right? It goes to the heart of what we've been talking about, that none of this is about securing an ultimate conviction after all of the appeals have run out. It's all about the political conviction that they believe he will receive as a result of being able to call him a quote-unquote convicted felon.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The biggest question that I'm getting from the super text line, a number of different questions for you, Jay, regarding this case. But the biggest question I'm getting, and I'm sure you've thought about it, just knowing you, this idea of you have to agree on these 34 counts, but you don't really have to agree on the underlying stuff. This idea that he had to do it in order to conceal, commit, or cover up another crime, and then the judge in the case gave him like a list of things they could pick off of, and that's confused. I mean, that's legitimately confusing people, like how that can be. And I want to get your thoughts after the break about that, if we can.
Very good.
22 after the hour. Jay's with us. We are live at Twin Creeks Marina, beautiful Thames Ford Lake. I said that just right, in Winchester, Tennessee. We'll be back right after this on The Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is Matt Murphy, Twin Creeks Marina, and the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We'd love to see you. Lots of folks spending some time out on the dock. I mean, the entirety of the restaurant, the Nest, whatever the Nest is, the events center, boat rental facility. I mean, it's all right here. The Drafts and Watercrafts restaurant and bar. We're on the water, baby, and we would love to see you. Tim's Ford Lake at Twin Creeks Marina. Jay St. Clair is with us as well. Sadly, he is not here in lovely Jay, have you ever been to Winchester?
All over this. I went to a swimming meet in Tullahoma, and
a swimming meet. Wait a minute, hold on. A swimming meet in Tullahoma.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And Clarksville, and of course Chattanooga. And my dad's from Murfreesboro, and I, of course, am from the beautiful Sequatchie Valley,
Dunlap, Tennessee.
That's it.
I've been to the one red light in Dunlap. Actually, I take that back. They put up another one. I don't know if I told you that or not, but there was two. I saw a couple of them.
Was it on, or they turned off at 8 o'clock?
Well, it was flashing. It just one side flashes red and the other side flashes yellow. You know how it goes.
I know.
So I have a few other things to say about Tullahoma and Winchester, but I'm going to hold off on that because I want to get to this. I want to get to this answer before we get to the bottom of the hour, and a lot of other questions coming in for Jay St. Clair. 615-737-9986. So, it confused a lot of people, including yours truly, Jay, that the judge could. It did not seem like the prosecution brought up this connective crime at all.
Right.
And the judge brought it up in his charging statement to the jury as he charged the jury. And just walk me through what you heard and help us understand how that can be, that the judge, he gave the jury options in terms of what crime they believed that Donald Trump was attempting to cover up or commit as a result of this falsification of documents.
No, that's right. He was charged really with two crimes, each of which separately was a misdemeanor and is time barred. But somehow under New York law, if you put those two together, it converts to a felony. I got questions about all that, man. But yeah, so the claim was that they recorded something falsely on their books to hide another crime, and the false recording was a crime, but then they were hiding another crime. And they never really clearly said what their other crime was. And the judge says, well, y'all can kind of pick one. Y'all don't have to agree on the same crime. Here's three that they've talked about. But y'all all don't have to agree on that. I believe that is absolutely unconstitutional. The United States Supreme Court, Matt, recently made it very clear, as clear as it can be, that jury verdicts in criminal cases must be unanimous. There's no doubt about that. And there was another case back in 1999 from the Supreme Court that kind of dealt with this issue. If there are predicate acts, if there's more than one act the person is charged with, then the jury has to be unanimous on what those multiple acts were. So, yes, I believe that part of the jury charge was defective. I believe that's one of the many grounds that they'll cite for reversing an appeal. And, frankly, I like the chance.
I think you just answered this super text, but I'm going to read it anyway, just in the interest of reading those texts that I think, agree with me and those that perhaps are of a different opinion. And I think this 5263 is coming from a different opinion on this. Says, read the jury instructions, Matt. They had to agree the falsification of business records was in the furtherance of a crime, but they didn't have to agree on what that crime was. Merchant didn't just, quote, give them a list of crimes to choose from. Those three predicate crimes the jury was allowed to consider and were introduced by the prosecution in the form of a motion that was prior to jury instructions. They wanted four. The judge denied one. The defense had their chance to counter the prosecution motion, but failed in their arguments. What do you say to that?
Well, they didn't fail. They lost. The judge says, no, I'm going to give an unconstitutional jury charge. The listener or the texter said it exactly right. The judge said, here are three possible predicate crimes. Y'all don't have to agree on that. You just have to find one of the three, and people can disagree on that. and you can still find him guilty. That is unconstitutional.
And you believe this will be one of the reasons that, or one of the appeals. I get one of the grounds. Grounds was the word I was looking for. One of the grounds for appeal. All right, 31 after the hour. More questions for Jay St. Clair. A lot of them coming in on the super text line. Jay is with us for the better part of the hour. It is Fry Jay, everyone, from Twin Creeks Marina in lovely Winchester, Tennessee. It's the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We're right outside of Drafts and Watercrafts, which is the lovely floating restaurant here at Twin Creeks Marina on Thames Ford Lake. Jay St. Clair, I asked you about Winchester, and I remembered the other question that I was going to ask you. Were you knowledgeable about the fact that it was Thames Ford Lake, which is very confusing to me? Did you have any? Do you have any knowledge of Thames Ford Lake? Before today.
Yes, I don't know the name derivation, but yeah, I'm familiar with that. Because when we lived in Huntsville, we would drive kind of up that way to go to Murfreesboro.
Uh-huh.
So I know I would go out through Shelbyville, and yes, I know that part of the God's country well.
Well, some knucklehead for the first hour of my appearance out here was calling it Tim Ford's Lake, and. And the same knucklehead, I have it on good authority, didn't understand why people, when they walked by him, were shaking their head like they were ashamed of him. But they were, but he eventually got it right. Here's an important question, Jay, and this is kind of a little bit in my wheelhouse, but a little bit in your wheelhouse, too. I think you'll know the answer to this question. Jake writes in and says, I thought a felon was not allowed to be president of the United States of America. And
well, that's incorrect.
That is incorrect. I think I'm right. I think this off the top of my head, but I think that there are 3 requirements
to be it's in the Constitution.
That's right. And it's
5 years old. You have to be a born or naturalized citizen of the United States. Oh, I remember the 3rd. You got to be a Tennessee fan.
No. You have to have lived in the United States of America for the last 14 years.
Oh,
that is number 3. There's no constitutional. You know what? The University of Tennessee, I think I'm right in this, Jay. I don't think it comes up once in the Constitution of the United States.
Damn, blame. Oh.
This is a question that a number of folks have asked. 1215 says, can Trump circumvent the state appellate process and go straight to the Supreme Court since this involves a presidential election?
He can. Right? Hey, Bell's not with you, but Bell knows that it only takes 2 things to file a lawsuit. Well, those 2 things work here, man.
$400 and a crayon.
Where'd you get your law degree?
Same place you did, I think. No. I'm sorry, I didn't go to Harvard.
Damn. You don't need to slander me like that.
I knew that would work.
Those are fighting words.
Bell, you've come closer to putting Jay's needle in the red than anybody I think I've ever heard.
I think you're right.
I think you almost got him in the red there.
So yes, they can file papers to go have a Supreme Court take this case directly. I do not believe they would do that, but he can try. And Mark Levine's been out there beating the drum about that. There is a vehicle by which he can do that, but they don't have to take it, and I don't think they will. They'll wait and let the lower appellate courts work through it first.
But, isn't that, and once again, the pendulum swings from the legal world to the political world and the legal world to the political world, right? And so the hairs on the back of my neck stand up, and I think, well, if the Supreme Court says, no, we're going to let the process work out, aren't you giving the victory to the people whose entire point is to keep this around until after the election? Well, that's the whole point.
The key word in that question, Matt, the key word is victory.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Nah, well, you're right about that. And the response, I think, has been very, very different for those who intended to bring this up for the political purposes that we believe are involved. Because I don't think they expected the level of rallying around Trump that we have seen as a result of this verdict. Almost $40 million in 10 hours, Jay.
No, well, I agree with that. As we sit here today, or I say the game's not over, but the petard has exploded differently than the bombers planned.
Yep, right about that. Tommy writes in and says, I have a question for Jay. What is the method to remove a judge, a corrupt judge, he said, from the bench? And more broadly, if we believe that this judge has just allowed the politics of the day to affect his decision-making, I mean, what's the process by which a judge would have to go, a judicial canon of ethics, or how does that work?
Yeah, that's fine. It's different state to state, and I'll confess to you, I've never looked at what this procedure is in New York. But, yes, I'm sure, like in Alabama, they have what's called the Court of the Judiciary, and each state has some means of disciplining judges, and so you just have to go through that process. But it's a New York state process. It's not a federal process or not a Tennessee process. So it's the state of New York gets to decide if they're going to remove a judge or not. And keep in mind, judges are elected. This judge was elected.
1833 says, Matt, please ask Jay how they got away without telling Trump the charges of the underlying commission of the crime. In other words, I guess they waited till right at the very end before they brought this into the trial, and I was confused all along as to how they could get away with not telling the defense what the secondary crime that he was being accused of committing or covering up was.
Yeah, here's how they got away with it. Is a judge in the middle of a trial is a dictator, man, an absolute dictator. He controls everything that happens in the courtroom, and there's nothing you can do about it. You just have to sit there and take your whipping. And he can be as wrong. I mean, there's a judge here. I've tried a lot of cases, but he would sustain objections that weren't even made. If a question was asked that he didn't like, he would just say, sustained, move on, counsel. And
what?
There's nothing you can do about it, man.
Wait, hold on. So, judge in a court, I'm not going to ask you who, because I know you wouldn't tell me anyway.
Well, he's not on the bench anymore. I'll tell you exactly who it was. U.W. Clement, federal judge.
So, a federal
guy, I love him to death, but good Lord.
Wait, so he would just not like the question or have a preconceived notion in his head that he didn't like where it was going or whatever, and before opposing counsel would offer an objection, he would sustain it?
Right. He'd just say, sustained, move on, counselor. And there's nothing you can do about it, man. And listen, I had him sit in the courtroom and use body language when charging a jury. Now, if you think that the defendant is guilty and he'd shake his head up and down, then this is what you would do. But if you think the defendant is innocent, he'd shake his head back and forth, no. I watched it, man, in my trial. And there's nothing. Here's the only thing you can do about it. You can say, well, I want the record to reflect that, right, because it's not in the record. He's smart. He's doing it on purpose. There's no evidence of what he was doing. And so you have to stop and say, well, Your Honor, I want to put in the record that when you said if the defendant is guilty, you nodded your head up and down, meaning yes. Well, how do you think that's going to play out?
Right. I mean,
you just have to take your whipping.
I mean, and I thought about this earlier today when Trump came out and he talked about the rigged nature of the trial, and he said the Trump things, but he also went after the judge again, and just for a split second, Jay, I thought, man, Trump better watch it because this guy's got to sentence him coming up July 11th. But then I realized, well, I mean, he knows, and we all know, that that's already baked in the cake.
Oh, yeah. He ain't going to change that. You don't have to worry about that.
What do you expect?
Apparently the maximum charge, I'm thinking about this, man. The maximum sentence for this crime apparently is 4 years.
Uh-huh.
Well, he's got 30-something convictions, right?
Right.
And he doesn't have to make those concurrent. You know what may be best for Trump? Is for this judge to sentence him to 120 years in prison. I mean, if you go big.
I mean, you may as well go ahead and do it. I mean, I think we all get it already. The absurdity of it is coming out. One thing that I'm happy to see, we talked about how sad it was that not one person on the jury. It's kind of the opposite of 12 Angry Men. And I would encourage, for those listening that have never seen the play or seen the movie, more particularly with Henry Fonda as the lead in that movie, please go watch it, because it's a great example of how the process ought to work. And how go ahead.
If you don't have time to watch that, watch the Andy Griffith episode where Aunt B is on the jury and Jack Nicholson is the defendant. And everybody wants to convict him except Aunt B.
I don't know that I remember that episode, Jay. Now
I think all about it. And Aunt B turned and she was the only woman on the jury.
Uh-huh.
And she turned them around.
Oh, so they had their own version of 12 Angry Men on the Andy Griffith Show. I don't think I've ever seen this.
Wasn't that one of the color episodes?
I think it is, yeah. And the defendant is played by Jack Nicholson.
Huh.
Look it up.
I'll have to go look that up. Jay, let me see if I got any more. Ask Jay. Here's a great question for you, Jay, considering some of your prognostications regarding the University of Tennessee in the past. Does Jay have a prediction on UT in the College World Series?
My crystal ball broke a long time ago, but here's the only prediction I will make. Somebody on the University of Tennessee will hit a home run in the College World Series. They're bombers. I know you probably don't follow them.
I don't.
But they got a guy who set the single season record for most home runs, and they're number one team in the country right now. So, but I think the odds are really against them. I don't think going into the College World Series, the number one team ranked going in hadn't won it in like 30 years. So my only prediction is somebody wearing an orange jersey is going to hit a dinger in Omaha.
I bet they will. This is a great place to end the conversation about Trump right now. This is a really good question. We have really, really smart listeners. And 6585 wants to ask you, Jay, what you believe, looking back on it, hindsight's 20/20, of course, but what could Trump have done, if anything, differently within the trial? What could his attorneys have done differently within the trial, looking back on it now?
To change the outcome of the case, I would say nothing. I don't think that I'm not going to run more quarterback anything they did in terms of winning the case. The part of this, here's the technical part that lawyers do, is protecting the record, making sure they objected to everything that could be grounds for appeal. I'm not privy to all that kind of detail. These are great lawyers, and I'm sure they adequately protected the record. So the answer to your question is nothing. I think this outcome is predetermined, and I don't think there's anything they could have done to change the outcome of this case.
A lot of go Vols for you, Jay, as folks want to offer their support for UT in the College World Series and beyond. And I do appreciate you. You know, we lean on you during these times when we're trying to figure out all of this legal stuff, and we appreciate you being on with us today, my friend. Hit them straight.
Thank you, man. You know, it's my pleasure. I love you and I love Middle Tennessee, and I love all your listeners. Thank you for letting me be part of the show.
It's absolutely our pleasure. There's Jay St. Clair spending a better part of an hour with us on Super Talk 99.7 WTN and the Matt Murphy Show. We'll come back in just a moment. Coming up in the 2 o'clock hour, not only Friday Mac Attack, a relatively somber Friday Mac Attack, as the announcement was made earlier today, if you didn't hear it, that Super Talk 99.7 WTN is losing Mac Morey to Kansas City. Now, if you understand Mac's background, now he is our newsman. He also produces the Chris Hand Show between 9 and noon. But Mac is a KC guy. He has family out there, and he's a longtime Kansas City Chiefs fan, and it's kind of a dream job of his to work in some sort of affiliation with the Kansas City Chiefs. And he now has that opportunity as he's going to go work for and produce their morning show on the flagship station of the Kansas City Chiefs. We'll talk to Mac in the 2 o'clock hour after, I know, I feel the same way, Bill, after we speak with Senator Marsha Blackburn, and she's coming up at 2:05 this afternoon on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Back in a moment. Super Talk 99.7 WTN, Matt Murphy and the Matt Murphy Show. Thank you for being around. It's 1:56. We're fast approaching the top of the hour. We'll check in with news with Mac Morey in just a couple of minutes. Senator Marsha Blackburn joins us right after that to reflect on the verdict from the Trump trial yesterday and where we go from here. But while I have a moment at Twin Creeks Marina, you know, anytime I see a guy walking by in a grass skirt, I got to stop him and say, you need to be on the radio with me. That's a guy I want to talk to.
Well, that's me, man. Hey, y'all. Me and my wife, we're tourism ambassadors for South Central Tennessee Tourism Association, and we go around and we love to promote Tennessee.
And it's Dan and Mary.
Yep.
And y'all are with Hey Y'all.
We're Hey Y'all. We were South Central Tennessee Tourism and Experience Tennessee. And, man, we love doing what we do. And I'm telling you, man, you go around and they got festivals, you got parades, you got concerts. We cover 13 counties in southern Middle Tennessee. And, man, we have a ball doing what we're doing.
I think that Mary deserves an award. I'm just telling you, I just met. Yeah, that's exactly right. Putting up with you, Dan. Well, how long have you been doing this?
We've been doing this. We've been doing what we do for about 4 years. We've been with South Central Tennessee Tourism for the last 2.5 years. And man, we're with Experience Tennessee, and Experience Tennessee runs the Whiskey Trailhead, which is a welcome center across the street from Jack Daniels in Lynchburg, Tennessee, as well.
Right.
And we do work for Nashville's Big Backyard, and that's runs from Nashville all the way down to Muscle Shoals along the Natchez Trace. And man, we love covering everything that we cover.
I bet you do. Is the favorite? I don't want to assume anything, but I imagine one of your favorite parts of the job is meeting people and just seeing folks.
Yeah, I mean, and you get out now. We picked up a little bit of a following, not to toot our own horn or anything, but we go places down and you hear people holler, "There's Hey Y'all," and so we know they know us.
Well, I can't imagine why we'd never know you walking by, Dan. I mean, for those that, let me just describe. We've got the Hawaiian shirt on. We got a couple of big Hawaiian lays on top of that. We've got the grass skirt going on. You got your big twisted T hat. I mean, you got
matching socks on today.
Yeah, they match something, I suppose. So you've got it going on. So what are you just at the marina, just enjoying the day, just talking to folks?
We live here in Franklin County. We live about 3 miles from here, and Scotty, they're having a luau here at Drafts and Watercrafts tonight.
Yeah.
So we come down, do a little promotion for him, man, and he's a great guy. Runs a steakhouse here in town also, but he runs Drafts and Watercrafts, and it's a great place to come to.
And the last thing that Mary said to you before we came on air is don't talk about politics or religion or SEC football.
That's right, because I'm always right.
Which one you want to talk about?
Well,
SEC football, because you are a Vandy fan?
I am. I grew up in Nashville, Tennessee. Went to Glencliff High School. I bleed black and gold.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. They ever going to finish that stadium? Have you seen the construction going on?
I haven't been up there lately to check on it.
It's nice. It's nice. Well, look, thank you for stopping by. How do people find out more about you? Go to experiencetn.com?
Go to experiencetn.com, and then also, if you want to, go to Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube, and just type in Hey Y'all, and you'll find our page. And always remember, don't just travel Tennessee, experience Tennessee.
There's Dan with Hey Y'all. Thank you, Dan. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
We'll be back with Senator Marsha Blackburn coming up next. One more hour to go from Twin Creeks Marina. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Stand by.
From ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. Calls to end the war between Israel and Hamas have been growing, and now President Biden is urging both sides to agree to a ceasefire proposal that includes phases to release hostages along with boosting aid into Gaza. Here's ABC's Mary Bruce.
This is all an effort, this temporary ceasefire deal, of course, to lead to something more sustainable. Ultimately, he hopes the end of this war. And the president is really trying to turn the tables on Hamas, saying, look, you said you wanted to end this. Now is a chance to show that you are serious.
Next week marks 8 months since the October 7th attacks. The president also commenting for the first time on Donald Trump's conviction on 34 felony counts of falsifying business records and pushed back on Trump's claim that the trial is rigged.
President Biden said the guilty verdict in Donald Trump's trial reaffirmed the American principle that, quote, no one is above the law. He said Trump now has the opportunity to appeal that decision because that's how the American system of justice works.
It's reckless. It's dangerous. It's irresponsible for anyone to say this was rigged just because they don't like the verdict.
The president said the justice system should be respected, calling it the, quote, cornerstone of America. Karen Travers, ABC News, the White House.
The Texas Supreme Court has rejected a legal challenge to one of the most restrictive abortion bans in the nation.
It was the first time that women facing serious pregnancy complications sued Texas over its abortion ban. Those women detailing how their medically necessary abortions were denied, putting their health, fertility, and in some cases their lives at risk. They claim that the current law does not give clarity on abortion ban exceptions. But the court unanimously ruling that doctors who were denying those medically necessary abortions were misreading the law, which they write does provide broad exceptions in such cases. Dave Packer, ABC News.
On Wall Street, stocks are mixed, heading into the closing bell next hour. You're listening to ABC News.
Back after it, hour number 3, Matt Murphy Show, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is 7 past 2. Thank you for being with us. We're down in Winchester, Tennessee at Twin Creeks Marina. I'm enjoying watching everybody feed the fish, and they somehow know where all of the feeding is going to come from. It's almost as if they're trained. One way or the other, we're at Twin Creeks Marina, just outside of Drafts and Watercraft. Stop by and see us at Twin Creeks. Beautiful facility and beautiful Timms Ford Lake in Winchester, Tennessee. It's gorgeous. It's almost difficult to be angry about some of the goings-on of the last 24 hours or so, but we remain a little upset and angry, and I am certain that our next guest is a little frustrated about the results of the show trial, what has been described as almost a third world banana republic show trial in Washington, D.C. It is always a pleasure to welcome back to the show Senator Blackburn to talk about the actions in Washington, D.C., the actions in New York City and beyond. Senator Blackburn, good to have you back on with us. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today on the Murphy Show.
Well, I'm delighted to join you. Thank you so much for having me back on. And, Matt, you are so right. People are really just so angry with what they have seen play out because they know there's 2 tiers of justice, and they have watched the president and his team weaponize the federal government against their principal political opponent. And this isn't what we do in the United States. We are a nation of laws. We abide by the rule of law. There should be equal access, equal protection, and equal justice. And that is not what has happened with President Donald Trump. So you do have this show trial from a DA who ran, just think about it, he ran for office saying, if you elect me, I'm going to get Donald Trump. I'm going to get him. And he was finding a way to do it. Regardless, you have FEC had looked at this and said no wrongdoing. So had the Department of Justice. So had Bragg's predecessor. But Bragg brings this, and they get a jury. Donald Trump was never going to get a fair trial in New York City, and not with a jury from an area that had voted, 85% for Trump's opponent. So this shouldn't surprise us, but I will tell you what, yesterday was a tipping point with the American people. I have so many friends who are Democrats and independents. They didn't care for Donald Trump. They didn't vote for Donald Trump, but they are going to vote for him now because they feel like weaponizing the federal government against an individual, especially when you cannot define what the crime is, that all of this is just so wrong, and we do not conduct ourselves that way. We do not conduct business that way. We abide by the rule of law, and this is lawfare writ large.
Well, and I was going to ask you, Senator, what more can we do? And I believe you and some of your Senate colleagues have already kind of taken a stand in that regard, signing off on a letter. I think it's you and 8 total of your fellow senators, including yourself. Talk to me about what your proposal is moving forward with this current administration.
Yes, this is, pardon me, Chuck Schumer and the Democrats continue to say that elections have consequences and they're going to do things their way. So this morning we sent a letter saying we will not fund any more appropriations that go into anything like this lawfare. We are going to hold up all of their nominees and not approve these nominees, especially these judicial nominees that they keep trying to force feed the American people and fill these seats on the federal bench with people who are activists. They've been an activist, they've been a law professor, but they've never been a judge. They haven't been a state, a local, a federal judge, and now they're wanting to go to the district and appellate courts. And we're just saying no. And we're trying to build momentum to block them. Basically, what we're doing, Matt, is trying to freeze them in place. and just say, if you want to grind it to a halt, we're going to do what we can to grind it to a halt, and we're going to try to get to that 41st vote to grind things to a halt, because in the Senate, you have to have 60 votes to proceed.
Senator Marsha Blackburn with us for a few moments, talking about the aftermath of the verdict yesterday. You know, part of me, I was initially saddened just for our process and for the system itself. It was just a sad day for the United States of America, particularly our judicial branch of government. But at the same time, the aftermath of this, Senator Blackburn, and you watched it, as did the rest of Tennessee and the rest of America, almost $40 million in support of former President Trump with regard to his reelection campaign. That has to give you a sense of pride that the country sees through the lawfare that's going on in New York.
Yeah, I think yesterday was that proverbial tipping point. And you do have people who have never given Donald Trump a dime, who went to the website and made contributions to get some money in the pot to help him with his campaign, because people with common sense, good common sense, realize that this was a tipping point, that we do not operate this way in the United States, and therefore you cannot allow this administration to continue. And the website for the president's campaign is donaldjtrump.com, and I would encourage everybody to go. Likewise, I would encourage everybody to get involved and to take some action. You know, we've got 30 million evangelicals in this country who are not registered to vote. And they need to get registered to vote, and they need to get active. And this is a year when everybody is going to have to show up and do their part. Because if they don't, you're going to have more of this lawfare. And November 5th is going to be the day the American people can speak on this issue. And I think many people realize November 5th is going to be important, because if they can do this to Donald Trump, a former president of the United States, they can weaponize this government against you, and they will.
Outside of the actions that you and several of your colleagues in the Senate have taken to define what you're going to allow moving forward in terms of fiscal responsibility and not spending any more money that could indirectly go to this, is there anything more that you can do at this point as a senator? I mean, many of our listeners on our super text line, Marsha, are asking me this question. Is there anything more the Senate can do? Are you considering any of your options, or is it as simple as support those who support the president and move toward November 5th? As he said yesterday, that's the ultimate judgment day.
It is the ultimate judgment day, because that's the day when the people have their say in this. And in the Senate, we are not in charge. And, you know, Matt, you and I've talked about the need to have a hearing and a markup on H.R. 2, a border security bill,
yes,
which
ma'am.
has now been in the Senate for 1 year and 2 weeks. 1 year, 2 weeks. And Dick Durbin has never taken the bill up. So that's what we face in the Senate. But we can work with the House, begin to build this record so that it can be investigated. We can't indict anybody. We can't convict anybody or try anybody. The one tool we have is to build that record. And then it has to be turned over to DOJ. But November 5th, supporting DonaldTrump.com, I would encourage them to support me at make certain we have the House, the Senate, and that we've sent Donald Trump to the White House. And then we have to be aggressive in getting to work. As I've told them, I said, get him sworn in, send the Senate and the House to their chambers to get to work, and President Trump to the White House to do executive orders. No parade, no ball, just action.
Get to work. Amen. Well, Senator, thank you for spending a little time with us today, reflecting on yesterday and where we go from here moving forward. And I know we'll be seeing you on the campaign trail throughout the summer months. We appreciate your time and your availability to the citizens of the state of Tennessee. Thank you so much.
You got it. Enjoy Tim's Ford. Take care.
We'll do. All right, take care. There's Senator Marsha Blackburn, 17 after the hour. We will continue to enjoy Tim's Ford. You know, Marsha said it right the first time out. I only said it wrong 14 times. We counted. I only said it wrong 14 times before I finally got it right. Marsha, being from around here a little bit longer, she said it right initially. You know, it occurs to me that this is different in as much as it does not matter your political affiliation. And I want to strip this back for just a moment because we need a big tent approach when it comes to November 5th. I don't need to get the 40% that are already in. You know, there are 40% that are out and will always be out on Trump, okay? There are 40% that are in that will always be in. There's that 20% in the middle that are either there because they're really not sure which direction they want to go in, or they're there because they're really not sure about this guy or that guy, or they don't like either of their options and they're tired of picking against the lesser of two evils, or they're not paying any attention. And those are the people that this might impact. And that's my fear. I've told you guys for a long time, I'm naturally a pessimist, and I fight against my pessimism to be an optimist. And based on that baseline of pessimism, I'm fearful that this will be used after the initial cascade of anger, after the initial cascade of money that went toward the Trump campaign. Once we get past the sentencing phase, and I don't believe they're dumb enough to try to put Donald Trump in prison, because I do believe that would create a dynamic that people would take to the streets with pitchforks and the like. That said, once we get past that cascade, I'm fearful that when we approach September into October, when those that don't pay attention in a regular way start paying attention, as they do every 4 years, they'll be caught up in this idea of, well, you can't possibly vote for a convicted felon. I can see the 30 and 60-second ads writing themselves. We have to get to those people. And I can't do it alone, and you can't do it alone, but collectively. And it is not even a matter of politics. I'm not suggesting that we try to convince people that their politics are wrong and get them over to the right side. I mean, we do that on a day-to-day basis. And there's nothing wrong with that. I would suggest to you that you, instead of trying to convince someone, if they are a Democrat, that their politics are wrong, convince them that this isn't about politics. It's about the basic building blocks of the country that we have, the representative republic that we have, and that if we allow our judicial system to be corrupted because of politics in a way where we don't see appropriate justice and we don't abide by the rule of law, if we don't do that, it doesn't matter whether you're Democrat or Republican or not. The bureaucracy will take over, and the bureaucrats will win either way. So this is not the way to do it. You win in the arena of ideas. You win on suggesting which is the better path forward, whatever the topic might be. You don't win in a court of law with a weighted system that put their thumb on the scale of justice and decided the outcome before we had any of the income. It's 20 after the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Quick time out, and we've got a little Friday Mac attack on the way coming up on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy. Hello. How are y'all? Nice to see you. Y'all having a good time? Is that your mom? That is not your mama. That is a lie from the pit of hell. There's no way that you're his mom. What were you, 14?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I thought. We're at Tim's Ford Lake at Twin Creeks Marina, and we got a bunch of Lion folks talking about that's his mom. I don't believe that for a second. But we're having a good time, and we hope you are as well. Come on out and see us if you have the opportunity. We'd love to see you. Belle, you told me something right before we came back that I have a hard time believing. You said that McMorey is running late. Is that right?
He just showed up in the window.
Okay. He just decided to sashay his way back into our lives. So what are we doing? We're doing Friday Mac Attack coming up, and what? Right after the bottom of the hour. Is that what we're doing? As we call it. Yeah.
Yes.
Feel good for you?
He sent us a text, said, running late again, I apologize. And my response to that was, fire this guy.
Yeah, I mean, we really should let him go. And maybe find somebody
something to say?
That's very nice. Yeah, hello, I'm here. Hello. Hey, guys.
All right, let's do this part of it now, and then we can move on to Friday Mac Attack after are you planning on doing a newscast today or no? I mean, are we ready for the 2:30 news?
I can be.
Okay, I just want to know where we're going. But I want to – we have a week of you left, right?
That's true.
Okay, but you made the announcement this morning.
Yes, I did.
For those who were not listening or perhaps missed it for whatever reason, tell everybody what the big announcement was.
So I will be taking my talents to Kansas City. I'm going to be going.
Oh, jeez. Oh, whatever.
I'm going to be, I got a job in Kansas City.
Here at Twin Creeks Marina, you got the same type of groan from this marina that LeBron got throughout the United States of America when he said as much. Taking my talents elsewhere. Ugh, gross.
Yeah, so I'm going to be going to Kansas City. I'm going to be working on the flagship station over there for the Chiefs, 610 KCSP. On their morning show, I'll be producing their morning show. So very bittersweet, sad to leave here, but excited for my next step. And as I said on the Chris Hand Show, I couldn't have done it without the support of you guys and just giving me the steps to grow and the abilities to mess up, which I did multiple times, but then to learn from that and to try new things and to get new opportunities. And I couldn't be more grateful for my 2 years here. I mean, I came in here fairly green. I had worked in a very small market in Wyoming for a year and a half or two, and that was my only true professional radio experience. So you guys were able to kind of lift me up and help me learn the ropes, and I feel like I grew a lot here.
Where were you born?
Kansas City. Born and raised.
KC. How old were you when you left?
16, 15, 16. Sophomore year of high school.
Last year?
And you've been in Nash. You've been in Nash how long? Yeah, last year I heard that. You've been in Nash how long?
I mean, since then, on and off, obviously. I mean, Knoxville for college, Wyoming for a year and a half. But yeah, pretty much, I mean, here's been the base.
And so this is very much, I just described it to someone off air, Mac. I don't know if you know the old school story of Paul Bear Bryant. You know who Paul Bear Bryant was, Mac?
Legendary coach, yes.
Yeah, all right, sure. I'm just checking. I just want to make sure. Man. I mean, I don't know how much you've boned up on your sports knowledge now that you're going to a sports station. But, when Bear Bryant was coaching at Texas A&M, I think I have this right. He was coaching at Texas A&M, and he got an opportunity to go to the University of Alabama. At the time, I mean, Alabama was, they had fallen on hard times, and the expectation was that A&M was kind of a better job than the University of Alabama, and he was questioned as to why he would leave a university like A&M to go back to the University of Alabama, and his response, you know what his response was, Maury?
What was it?
He said, Mama called. That was it. And as if that explained everything. And for those who know, they know. And in order to explain why McMorey would leave all of us in the dust, abandon us, I just told a fellow, I was like, well, I think Mama called for McMorey. I think that's fair.
That is fair. It's gonna be great. Yeah, being back with Mom, it's gonna be awesome.
Not your mama. I'm talking about Mama in the sense of the Chiefs and the opportunity and sports radio. Because for those who don't know, I mean that's kind of your first passion, your first love.
I mean, yeah, since I was 8 years old, that's been my passion, what I wanted to do, sports broadcasting in some form or fashion. I grew up in Big 12 country, not SEC country, but Britt Musburger was the Big 12 guy on Saturday college football, and that's how I fell in love with sports, and then grew on to going to listen to Mitch Holtis, touchdown, Kansas City. I mean, that's been my whole growing up period. So, yeah. I'm really excited.
Can I give you my Musburger impersonation?
Yes, please.
You're looking live.
Yeah.
That's it.
You're looking live.
That's all I've got. All right, so in the spirit of Mac's announcement earlier today, I took over the role of selecting our topic for our draft for Friday Mac Attack.
You did.
Bell and I consulted with one another after hearing that he would be leaving us for the Kansas City Chiefs affiliate station in Kansas City, Missouri. Bell, you want to tell everybody what we'll be drafting today right after the news?
Our personal favorite traders of all time.
All right, so we are going to draft. We do a 3-person draft once a week, 3 rounds of draft. We got to figure out the draft order. Bell, I would be willing to give Mac the first selection in honor of his getting his butt out of town. I'd be willing to do that. But Bell, you and I can maybe talk during the break while he's doing the news.
I'm good with that. Yeah, let's do that.
We'll do that. And, Bell, I'll tell you what, I'll go last. I don't know, though. That's a big – Bell, we got to figure this one out because I have a feeling that I have a feeling that there's a pretty strong lean in both of our camps as to where we're going first in the first round. But
unless I take him or her.
Unless you take him?
Unless I take him.
Oh, maybe. Well, I don't know. Who knows how this draft will go.
It wouldn't surprise me at this point.
The biggest traders in history will be the subject of the draft, and that's coming up in moments on the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
2:31. I'm Mac Morey with your top story. 77 degrees currently in Music City. Weather forecast on the way. President Biden made his first public comments on Donald Trump's conviction yesterday on 34 felony counts of falsifying business records. Before speaking on the war between Israel and Hamas at the White House today, President Biden said Trump's conviction came after a fair trial. Karen Travers.
President Biden called it, quote, reckless, dangerous, and irresponsible for Donald Trump and his allies to attack the verdict by the jury in New York and the justice system in general. The president seemed to push back on accusations from the former president and his supporters that his administration was behind the prosecution.
Donald Trump was given every opportunity to defend himself. It was a state case, not a federal case, and it was heard by a jury of 12 citizens, 12 Americans, 12 people like you.
And Donald Trump spoke to the media today, and he said he looks like an angel, but he's really a devil, the entire Biden administration. Back here in Middle Tennessee, a man remains hospitalized after a shooting late last night in Hermitage. Nashville police were notified by medical personnel at TriStar Summit Medical Center after a man arrived suffering from gunshot wounds around 11:30 p.m. Police learned the man was shot as he was leaving a motel on Stewart's Ferry Pike in a U-Haul with another person. Reportedly, the U-Haul was turning onto Stewart's Ferry Pike from Bell Road when someone from another vehicle opened fire, struck the passenger. That driver continued on to TriStar Summit to get help. The victim's injuries considered serious, but not life-threatening. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy until at least 3 o'clock and beyond. We are at Twin Creeks Marina. It is at Timms Ford Lake. I'd say I almost got. Don't give me the business. I almost got it right. Y'all hush your mouths. We're at Drafts and Watercrafts. I need me a draft. That's the problem. Floating restaurants, incredible dining experience. We're going to grab some grub.
Okay, you're killing me with the paper.
Oh.
Yes, stop doing that.
Yeah, don't do that. I forget that I'm on television. I hope I haven't picked my nose. All right, so Mac Morey's here. Bell K's here. Matt Murphy is here. We like to do a little thing on these Fridays, and we won't get many more opportunities to do them. Mm-hmm. We call it Friday Mac Attack. Well, I mean, there we go.
Didn't know Jeff was in there. No,
before you leave, we'll get it right. Yes. Before you leave, Maury, one time we'll get it right. Okay, maybe not. All right, it's time for a little bit of Friday Mac Attack with the young Mac Maury. I guess you're leaving next Friday, Maury, so this is our next to last Mac Attack?
We will get one more Friday Mac Attack. In person, that is.
Well, and yeah, maybe, perhaps there might be some future Mac Attacks down the road for us. Exactly. But in person, one more Friday Mac Attack. And this time around, without further ado, the draft subject, which Mac Maury was not allowed to choose today based on his decision to abandon us and leave us for not-so-green pastures out in the middle of the country. The draft subject is the greatest traders of all time. And Mac Maury, Bell K and I made an executive decision during the break that not only are you going to go first, you set the draft order today in honor of your leaving. So you could actually choose to go second or third if you wanted, but I assume that you'll go first, but you need to tell Bell and I who goes second and who goes last in the draft.
Bell, you're second. Sorry, Murph.
Okay.
That wasn't the way that it was supposed to go at all. You know what? You're going to get yours. Hope. No. That's fine. That's fine, Maury, because I have a feeling that you're going to get yours. The greatest traders of all time. It's time for the 2024 Mac Attack Draft. Mr. Maury, go right ahead, sir.
Give me, honestly, I know you guys might be leaning towards a more close pick to home, but I am going to go with probably the greatest trader in American history, or one of Benedict Arnold. Give me Benedict
Arnold. What a solid selection.
Yeah, Benedict Arnold.
Almost too easy.
Yeah, too easy. Trash.
I mean, name synonymous with trader. I just saw an episode on Fox Business is running these great shows with Kelsey Grammer about the history of the United States of America. And I just saw one of these episodes on Benedict Arnold, and Benedict Arnold was a very frustrated general in the American Revolution, did not feel like he got his comeuppance or due, and then made the mistake, I don't know if you know this, Maury, of marrying a loyalist or a Tory. Oh. And part of the reason that he converted back over to the British side of things was because of that marriage. So it was really Benedict Arnold's wife.
It's always, come on, it's always.
It's always there's some saying about something or another being undefeated. I can't remember what the saying is, but maybe I'll get it. Maybe I'll get it one of these days. Bell, selection number 2, sir.
Actually, this one was pretty easy because it's kind of stuck in my craw since I saw the movie in the theater, and I'm going to go with Lando Calrissian.
That's actually...
Mac's like, who's that?
Oh, is this?
That solicited. Okay. That has solicited quite the reaction at Twin Creek. That's pretty good. Lando Calrissian. Would you like to explain for maybe those that don't know, Bell, what Lando did?
He turned Han Solo over to Darth Vader at Cloud City so that Darth could torture him into revealing where Luke Skywalker was.
Yeah, it's a very good friend. Kirby has maintained his silence long enough. He cannot contain himself. Kirby, you have a thought on this selection, sir?
It's a fictitious character. He does not exist.
Thank you, Kirby.
What has happened to the American youth?
What has happened to Friday Mac Attack, Kirby wants to know. This is not the Mac Attack that Kirby grew up with.
I'm sorry,
all right.
but that counts.
Look, it's your draft, my friend. Your draft. All right, for the third selection in the first round of the 2024 draft, I'll be honest. When I initially found out that I was drafting third, I didn't think there was a chance that I would get this draft pick. And so I'm going to take a chance to suggest that maybe my draft pick is going to be available in round number 2. I strongly consider. I'll just go ahead and throw it out there. I strongly considered selecting Mac Morey in this position as the greatest trader in all of history. It was a careful deliberation, but after much discussion with Team Murphy, I've decided instead of Mac Morey, I'm going to go with Lucifer. That's right. Beelzebub, the devil himself, who turned his back on the Lord, became a fallen angel, and became all things consumed with evil. So instead of Mac Morey, it was close.
It was close with Lucifer.
It was close. But I'm going to go with Lucifer in my number 1.
How gracious of you.
That's
Thank you.
That's probably motivation to up your game there, Maury.
Yeah. Well, there's always an opportunity in KC. Maury. Mac Morey, round number 2.
So I'm looking up traders, not exactly a history buff. Benedict Arnold was easy. I knew that one. Got the number 1 pick. Felt like that was butter. But this one, doing some research, man, this one, if it weren't for the American aspect of Benedict Arnold, I might have taken this with the number 1 overall pick, and I'm getting it in the second round.
Fascinating.
Give me, and I'm going to pronounce this the way I read it. This could be completely wrong, and it probably is, so we can laugh at me.
Uh-huh.
Because you don't have many opportunities
we'll do
to
that
do so.
anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Vidkun Quisling, Norway's trader. In December 19th, 1939, fascist Norwegian politician Vidkun Quisling traveled to Berlin from Oslo for a secret meeting with Adolf Hitler. And he suggested to Hitler that the British were planning to move into Norway for their own strategic needs. And that basically started the invasion of Norway. Hitler had no idea that was happening. He turned on his people.
I can't believe that a person that I had never heard of moments ago didn't make your number 1, your first round selection, but he does appear second, right behind Benedict Arnold, in a list of notorious traders that I just looked up on Google. So that's good. I'm just crapping
some
all over
clip
you.
notes, and that's pretty much what.
Crap all over you. Yeah. Bell, your second selection, sir.
This one's pretty easy, though. There was another one I was going to take, but I'll continue with your biblical theme, and we'll go with Judas Iscariot.
Judas.
Yeah, that was it. Nice.
I mean, come on.
Almost as bad as Mac Morey, but not quite. So Mac is wedged in between Lucifer and Judas Iscariot.
Right. And apparently, Vidkun Quisling is just less traitorous than Lucifer, but just a little more traitorous than Judas.
It's a tough one. This one's a tough
one. You guys are great. I'm going to miss this. Why would I leave?
For my second round selection, I'm going to go back to my theater roots. I was trained in classical theater, including Shakespearean theater. And Shakespeare, he had his dramas, his comedies, and then his historical dramas. And this would fall into the historical drama category when Julius Caesar looked to his former best friend and said, "Et tu, Brute, then fall Caesar." I'm going with Brutus, who betrayed Caesar and literally stabbed him in the back. I'm going with, much like Mac Morey has done to the entire Super Talk 99.7 WTN family, Brutus stabbed Caesar in the back. And this would make, Bell, you and I would be collectively Caesar in this scenario, along with Chris Hand and many, many other listeners. I don't want to leave the listeners out in this horrible betrayal that Mac Morey has engaged in over these last several weeks.
We should check the text, Members Nutrition text line and see if Jason is crying about Mac's betrayal.
Well, I can't imagine that he's not. I'm going to check that.
He just confirmed that he is.
Yeah.
Of course he is. Yeah. Jason
and,
gave me a very heartfelt call today. It was very nice.
Mac Morey, let's continue down our journey of the greatest traders in the history of all time. Your number 3 and final selection in this 2024 draft.
Whew, all right. Well, you know me. I'm gonna add a sports flair to this. Going to the NBA world, going to the hardwood. For a second, I thought about Kevin Durant, one of my favorite players of all time. He left Oklahoma City Thunder to go to the 73-9 win Warriors team right after choking a 3-1 lead to them in the playoffs, then went to them the next year. I thought about that. That was close. You know, he was loyal to OKC for almost 10 years. He gave it a shot. I'm going to go with the second best three-point shooter of all time, Ray Allen, leaving the Boston Celtics to go join LeBron James, who beat Boston, and he then went on to go hit an incredible shot for Miami in the finals. Give me Ray Allen.
It's a controversial selection in as much that many are questioning why you wouldn't just go LeBron James to begin with.
It's fair.
I know. Fair. But there it is. All right, in the minute and a half that we have left, Bel K, your final selection, sir.
Probably my single most favorite story of a turncoat trader, and that is the man who shot Jesse James, Robert Ford.
Oh, wow. I had not thought about that one. That's a great selection. No question. If anybody's never heard the story, you need to look it up because it's a good one. All right, so there's a lot of different ways that we could go at this point. I thought Samuel Mudd, he is the doctor that set John Wilkes Booth's leg after John Wilkes Booth broke his leg subsequent to the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. I thought about Jane Fonda. She was a traitor to us all. Kirby and I discussed Bo Bergdahl as a trader. But with all of those selections in front of me as my final selection in the 2024 Trader Draft, I'm going to pick, what's your first name again, Mac?
Malachi
Morey is my final selection.
Perfect.
In the 2024 draft. He is a traitor to us all. He will be okay by me for another week. Once he leaves on Friday, he's dead to me forever. Kansas City can have him. Patrick Mahomes can have him. There it is. He is the final selection for me in the 2024 Trader Draft.
I mean,
there you have it.
You know, Patty already called me. He was, hey, Mac, can't wait to have you, man. You're great. I mean, he already gave me a call, so it's all good. The Swifties are happy. I mean, everyone's excited. So
I'm not kidding, Mac. I'm not kidding. Listen to me closely.
Yes.
I will give you $1,000 if you do that Patrick Mahomes impersonation to Patrick Mahomes on the air.
All the Swifties are like, what's Cougar Chow?
I'm in. I'm doing it. $1,000. I'll send you my Venmo.
We'll check in with Brian Wilson in a moment on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Stand by. Winding down from Twin Creeks Marina in Winchester, Tennessee at Tim's Ford Lake. And we thank you all for stopping by. A lot of listeners stopping by in this neck of the woods, and we certainly do appreciate you. Come on by and see us. We'll be here for a little while longer. Brian Wilson is joining us in beautiful, and as he would like to call it, bucolic Watertown. Hello, Mr. Wilson. How are you?
I'm doing well. Boy, what a day yesterday.
Yeah. You guys did a great job, by the way. May I just interrupt you and say what a fabulous job you did with that breaking news. Thank you.
Well, thank you. We really committed a lot of effort to it yesterday because it was the story, and it's a big story today. Unfortunately, can I just say that we had another really pretty important story that we were developing on our own, something that I think has a lot to do with Metro Nashville Police Department and the way it's run. And during that interview, which we had to sort of, bypass after we did it and not go back to it and talk about it anymore because of the breaking Trump news, there was a little tidbit that came out that is huge news with regard to the Covenant shooting. Now, so I'm going to talk about the Trump trial at 3 o'clock. But at 4 o'clock, I really feel like this is such an important story with regard to the Covenant shooting and the investigation that is said to be ongoing, that I'm going to go back to that in the 4 o'clock hour. And I think that anybody who cares deeply about what they know and the tragedy that we incurred on that horrible day where 6 people lost their lives will find the things that I'm going to report in the 4 o'clock hour to be incredibly important. And so I would urge you to come back by in the 4 o'clock hour. We'll start with the Trump trial at 3, the Covenant shooting update at 4, a busy day here on The Drive.
Well, thank you, Mr. Wilson. We appreciate you. It will be a very informative day, and Brian's right. The story that he broke yesterday involving the Metro Nashville Police Department and the Covenant School is dramatic, to say the least, and we'll be listening at 4 o'clock along with the rest of you. Brian Wilson and The Drive comes up right after Mac Morey's newscast, and Mac Morey's newscast comes up right now. From beautiful Winchester, Tennessee, and the Twin Creeks Marina, Matt Murphy saying, hope you have a great weekend, folks. Hug your loved ones. We'll talk to you on Monday. Until then, so long.